Hi, my name is Jude Matulich-Hall, and this is Titles, Talk, and Tipples. With me today is Jiba Molei Anderson, the creator of the graphic novel, The Horsemen. Welcome, Jiba. Thank you very much.
Hello. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
We're not drinking alcohol this evening, but...
it's a key lime pie chocolate edible. Try this out. Turns out it is absolutely delicious.
Don't partake in THC, but I'm a firm believer in CBDs. So, So what are you working on right now?
What I'm working on right now is I'm actually playing hooky, one day hooky,
Nice.
from working on The Horsemen Manifest Destiny, which is the latest installment of the new mythology saga, as I call this universe. So The Horsemen is the story of the gods of Africa returning to Earth and possessing 7 people to save humanity from itself.
Oh, cool.
I started this book in 1997. This was actually my, it actually came out of my thesis when I was getting my master's degree at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And that thesis was about the history. I was going to write, design, and illustrate, in some parts, a book about the history of Black superheroes and tie it in with African mythology. So I was going to use the Orishas as title, as chapter headers, and also as sort of like, okay, I am going to find a group of heroes and do they fit this archetype? Do they fit this archetype? Do they fit this archetype? So on and so forth. Around the same time, I was officially getting into the comic book industry. I had done one book, I had penciled one book, and I wanted to do more. And from penciling that one book, I started to shop around the pages, so on and so forth. And I had a couple of other, friends who were working to get into the industry as well. And we were doing things individually. And we kind of came together at the Motor City Comic Convention in 1997. I remember this day. And I'm walking around in Artist Alley and run into George Perez, one of my artistic idols.
Yeah.
And turned out to be actually one of my mentors in how to navigate this career. So when I saw him in 97, I had already met him and we had already become friendly, and he remembered me, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. Yeah. And a lot of us, so we had a certain relationship. So I said hello to him, so on and so forth, showed him my stuff. But then I ran into Steve Rude, the creator of Nexus, co-creator of Nexus, at the con, and he was also one of my artistic heroes at the time. And I showed him my portfolio, and he looked at the portfolio and he said, you know what? He like the best piece in there. He's like, I want that best piece to become the worst piece in your portfolio. Oh. And then he, he said, like, which was very encouraging. He said, in 5 years, you'll be one of the guys that I'm going to be looking at. And I was like, oh, that's high freaking praise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that night, me and my buddies, my 3 other buddies, we decided to create a comic book company. And we decided to, Griot was born that night after that meeting. They were like, yeah, we're indie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Concepts, blah, 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 blah. But what happened was my thesis. And with the thesis and talking about African mythology and talking about Black superheroes, there was a crucial point. So I'm like, okay, I get to illustrate the African gods, and in particular, the Orishas. That was the faith system that I was focusing on, the Ifa faith, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm like, okay, this also tied in with something I wanted to do since a teenager, was like a series, an illustrated series of African gods and goddesses. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I've got my chance to finally do it, right? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Word up. So I'm going to do for the Orishas what Jack Kirby did for the Asgardians. Mm-hmm. And so I started designing the Orishas, Oshun and Oya and Shango and Yemaya and Ishu and Obatala and Ogun. I started designing them as superheroes. And also at the same time, taking superhero costume design to a different area because I didn't want them to be in the union suit. So I started looking at like hip hop fashion and then also African fashion and dress and then African patterns and stuff like that. And beginning really, well, not beginning to, but really increasing and intensifying what I was already doing as a designer in terms of my exploration of African iconography and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I began to put that into my comics. And from that thesis, and when I created those characters, I was like, okay, this is too cool to be a thesis. Yeah. It'll just be my thesis. This is going to be it. This is good. This is going to be the book. Yeah, this is going to be the concept. And when I went to the fellas initially about that, they were like, oh man, it sounds like you're doing a superhero book. Oh man, it sounds like you're selling out. Oh man, I thought we were going to be different. I thought we were going to take it to the next level. And I was like, watch. Yeah. And when I showed them the concept and how it all came about, they were like, oh. Yeah. Oh, okay. Word. Okay. We get it now. Yeah. You know. And when the Horsemen dropped in 2002, I mean, you know, we were in Diamond's top 300 bestseller list for the first two issues before Diamond got really full of itself and in the whole thing and what it's become now. But you know, there was a little thing that started, and even when the initial group dissolved, and it was just kind of me with Griot for a minute. Yeah. I said to myself, like, I can't let this, you know, I can't let it go. I could have been, and I saw so many instances of people, and specifically Black creators, do like 1 or 2 issues of a book and then just give up and never see it again. You never see the book again. Yeah. And I did not want to be in that group. I did not want to be one of those cats. I realized, you know, or I said to myself, like, I just got started in this industry, and I have nowhere gotten to where I wanted to be in this industry. Right. So just by pure stubbornness and tenacity, if you will, the company survived and also was able to see the writing on the wall with the beginning of print on demand, which was huge. You know what I mean? Which was huge in terms of eliminating an economic, you know what I mean? An economic hurdle.
Right. And a middleman, you know, it's like you could get rid of all that.
Right. And also distribution too, because this was when Diamond was cracking down, and it's like, if it's not DC or Marvel, and you know, we don't take it ourselves, so we're not going to carry it, blah, blah, blah. So it was print on demand and then crowdfunding, you know, so there are all these barriers being taken away. And then social media as well allowed for Griot Enterprises and myself to keep moving forward and keep growing. 10 years into my career and being asked to be part of books like Black Comics by John Jennings and Damian Duffy, and getting asked to be there, it's like, wait, y'all are paying attention? You know what I mean? So it's like in things of like, you know, the late Dwayne McDuffie, being a fan of the Horsemen when it came out, it was one of those things like, wow, y'all you guys are actually paying attention. It was only literally in the past 2 years, where I stopped feeling like a newbie. At the point when, I'm getting asked to be a keynote speaker at Penn State Altoona for an Afrofuturism module during Black History Month. Getting a Pioneer Lifetime Achievement Award from the East Coast Black Agent Comics Convention. Like when they said, yeah, we're going to give that to you, I was like, Lifetime Achievement? I'm not that old. I'm not old. Like, don't let the great fool you. Like, I'm not, I still got a lot to do. Like, yeah. I'm not even 50 yet. Come on now. But seeing in those, I'm beginning to now see it, where I am in the game. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm not a newbie anymore. Yeah. I'm a veteran.
Now you're the mentor, right?
What's really interesting, and some people may get mad because I'm going to be talking out of the home, right? I'm going to put our business out into the street. Yeah. Okay. When I look at other independent comic book groups outside of the Black community, I see people like they're promoting their books, you know what I mean? Yeah. They're talking about their titles, that sort of thing. None of them are ever talking about trying to take down DC or Marvel. Because you can't. Sure.
Yeah, they're too big.
Another thing that you don't see in other groups are talking about, like, how do we make our books mainstream? In other words, how do we grab the white audience?
Oh, yeah.
Another thing that you don't see in other groups is, like, do I have to create, characters that look like me? If I'm a Latino creator, or or an Asian creator, or an LGBTQ creator, or a woman creating, right? Yeah. It's only with Black creators, and specifically Black male creators.
Okay.
Because I'm going to keep it 100% about this, right? Okay. I'm calling out my gender as well. But we are the only group that is concerned whether or not, like, our culture is enough, or concerned with the gaze of the other, as I like to call it, to find acceptability in what we do, right? And here's the thing, I've seen it in these years, these decades now. I've been in the business, and it has always and continues to irk me. And it's also like the dumbest, it is completely the dumbest, like, fear. If you will, specifically because right now Black content is having a moment. Yeah, it's having a huge moment. You know what I mean? From Black Panther to Watchmen to Lovecraft Country to Candyman to, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's so many things. Like, we're having a moment.
Yeah, it's a nice change.
It was the change. It was the change that I had been working towards, or that I foresaw when I got into the industry. And in addition to that, on the comic book graphic novel tip, we are definitely having a moment with the resurgence of Milestone, with the success of books like Bitterroot and Excellence, and with Brandon Thomas and Brandon Easton and David Walker, like all of these people, all of like friends and colleagues of mine. Yeah. Right. We were all working in the mix, like all these Black creators working in the mix independently, in the corporate too, as I call it, with the industry. even the notion itself of this Black comics movement, this subculture, it's healthy. It's very healthy.
Oh, yeah.
We have our own distributors. We have our own conventions. You know what I mean? We have many, many successful titles that have come out, that are coming out, that continue to come out, right?
Yeah.
And all of these have one thing in common. The last question that they're asking is whether, how do I get to the mainstream? You know what I mean? Or how do I sublimate my culture in order to be economically or creatively successful?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I see that, come up, it does irk me a lot. It irks me so much because it's obvious that these people, you call yourselves creatives and you call yourself wanting to get into the business, but you have no idea of what's actually happening in the business.
Oh, yeah.
You're coming in like, comic book industry's in trouble, like comic books are dying. How can you say it's dying when last year in 2020, it had its best year? Like comic books and graphic novels is a $1.22 billion business.
It's huge,
right?
Yeah.
Posted an article on a Facebook group the other day about another colleague, C. Spike Trotman. She owns Iron Circus Comics.
Oh yeah, I just saw that post today. Actually, right. I'm a little behind, but
and through crowdfunding, and I had talked to her when Iron Circus Comics was really, really beginning to take steam, and she was talking about Kickstarter, and I was trying to learn from her, like, how did you make these all successful? And it's like, 29 later, her company alone generated $2 million of that business. And so when I see these, and again, I'm going to call them out, and when this interview comes up, people are going to be mad at me.
That's okay.
But if you're going to be in this industry, you need to know about this industry.
Yeah.
I don't have time for the bullshit. I do not have time for you to listen to people who obviously they don't know this industry, or they have failed miserably because they don't know this industry. Yeah. And another thing's content, product, the way that sort of thing.
There's it's so hard. There's too many people out there that have opinions on stuff that social media is huge for it, right? Is you post a question and people start answering that don't know what they're talking about. And it's just, and it's like, if you were to listen to everybody, you're never going to get successful or find your own voice as long as you're listening to others. So it's like this weird balance is, how do you find mentors, and that's the best way, is find a mentor, and stop listening to everybody else, Right. When I give advice, I'm a novel writer. So coming from my point of view, when people start asking questions about publishing, I'm like, this is what I went through. I'm never like, this is what you need to do. It's like, well, this is what I went through. Take it with a grain of salt. It might be different for you,
Exactly. But how you get in is different.
Mm-hmm.
The things that get you in are universal.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, talent plus hard work,
good
plus
stories,
tenacity, tenacity plus
tenacity. I mean, that's the thing, right? Yeah. Tenacity is like, you can't, if you want to get out there, you can't stop. You can't, you can't go boo-hoo, I just got a rejection. It's like, no, you pick yourself up, you get back out there,
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing that kept me going for a long time. It's just the whole stubborn nature of like, no, I have not achieved what I wanted to achieve yet.
Yeah.
Like, what is your problem?
Well, I think that's ego. I think that anytime we're faced with something that we really want and we reject it when it finally falls into our laps, that's just our ego's getting in our way.
ego bullshit, as I like
Yeah.
to call it.
It's like, just get out of your own way for a second.
You know what I mean?
It'll be
Get out of
okay.
get out of your own way. Talent is important. The hard work is very important. Also, understanding, you know what I mean? Like the continual quest for knowledge. You have to, that also helps too.
Never give up learning.
Yeah, never give up on learning. Like I said, you know what? I want to have some different visions in there. I want to work with some different artists.
Yeah.
And one of them I've been looking at for a long time, this cat, Sean Hill. It's just amazing. And he's been doing a lot of work in the indie space. Nice. He's just now doing a story for Marvel for Luke Cage. I mean, he's like that great. But the end of last year, I had some money. It's like, yo, I want to get a hold of you. I want to grab onto you before you blow up. So how much for a commission? You know what I mean? And so I got some artwork for him. And there's this other cat out here who's going to be really, really big. I feel like he's going to make a splash. I'm calling him currently Neon Pen because his new alias on Facebook is just too much to deal with. So I'm calling him Neon Pen, which was his last alias.
Oh, okay.
But in terms of seeing something of myself, right? As a matter of fact, Garo Noel Maxine, that's what he calls himself on Facebook. He just posted something up there. But but looking at his work, I see me in his stuff, like in terms of not only how he creates images. I mean, it doesn't look exactly like mine, but I see his thinking behind it, and his design aesthetic, which I think is amazing. It's on point. It's 100. Like yeah, definitely. Like doing it all. It's me. You know what I mean? It's like the I found. You know what I'm saying? A successor, if you will.
There you go. Yeah.
Not in terms of like taking Griot Enterprises over, but in terms of really carrying on the tradition.
Yeah. Kindred spirit.
Yeah, kindred spirit. And he's doing a cover as well. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, yeah, I want you, you know what I mean? I want you on the team. And in addition to that, I'm going to sing your praises. You know what I mean? Not necessarily, becoming your manager. I'm not your manager, but what I will be is I will be that voice of encouragement. If my voice carries a little bit of weight, I'm going to share that weight by, giving you props.
Nice. Yeah.
And things of that nature. So in terms of, that kind of mentor, that's the kind of mentor I guess I will be or I am.
Yeah. I think mentorship is more about just being an influence, setting a good example. Yeah. You're not going to sit anybody down and say, I'm going to mentor you. It's just, we can look back in our lives and probably see quite a few mentors once we're past that time. But yeah, it's, and boosting each other, supporting each other, boosting each other. I think that's what's very necessary right now.
It's extremely necessary.
Yeah. And this podcast, I didn't know what I was going to do with a podcast, and my publisher told me, just read your book. And it's like, well, that's going to last the length of my book, and my book isn't even out yet. What do I do until then? And I was like, I know all these writers. Why don't I'll give them the spotlight, and then I don't, and be like nervous, like, you want me to do a podcast? And I was like, no, I'll talk to other people and boost them. And in the process, it's like I inadvertently get boosted. And
exactly. It all rises together. We all rise.
Yeah. Right. To, when you wanted to talk about when writing about other cultures, being respectful. And so I thought that that's a big topic that's coming up all over the place. My publisher recently asked me if I felt I needed a sensitivity editor. And I was like, what's a sensitivity editor? And he's like, well, just someone that, because I'm really diverse in my writing, and I make it a point to be as such because I love everybody and I want everybody in my stories, and I want everybody to find something in my stories that they can connect with. And so, I had no idea what a sensitivity editor was. And I said, no, I don't think I need one. And he's like, okay, that's fine with me. I mean, we don't, but I just wanted to ask because he had all these other authors asking. It's like, if you need a sensitivity editor, you're probably an asshole.
Yeah.
It's like, and I find that it keeps coming up. And what's really interesting is in my writers group, I have some people from the Netherlands, from the UK. This is only coming up with the United States writers. So I find that very interesting, for one. This is not a topic of conversation anywhere else that I know of. But, it's becoming really important to people to have someone else tell them to be respectful.
Well, you know what? So this is what it is. in my opinion, it's my opinion, but in this opinion, there are some deep kernels of truth in here. Yeah. So with the United States, the narrative up until, I would say, roughly up until civil rights movement. Okay, I'll say that. The narrative of, and even past then, the narrative of America was white male America. Mm-hmm. That was the only story that was being told. That was the only story that was being concentrated on. Yeah. That was the only story that was, quote unquote, selling in large numbers. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. So that was moving on fine. Right. Like I said.
Oh yeah, it was fine for them.
Exactly, it was fine for them. Like I said, the narrative began to change a little bit. Civil rights movement going into, the Black Power movement going into the women's movement, going into the LGBTQ movement. All of a sudden, like really from the 50s on, and especially the 70s, when you really had this explosion, like you had Black Power, women's rights, and gay rights. The hell is going on here? And everybody was, and you have Latinos talking, and
they all started talking to each other, and was like, wait a second,
like what the hell?
What's the common factor here? What's the problem?
Right, but even then, in terms of the literary and the creative narratives, because we'll also talk about comics, right? Mm-hmm. Is that the gatekeepers of those industries were white men, for the most part. Then what happened is, you slowly began to see the turn. Of course, you first saw it in music, where you saw hip hop just become a cultural phenomenon, and just the browning of America musically from the 90s to, you know what I mean, to
now, it's still going strong. Yeah,
exactly, right. Then you also see like really the rise again of women's issues, from Me Too, and so on. You see the rise of the bigger rise of the LGBTQ community. All of these things happening. What you also see is now that audiences don't want the fake voices of white men speaking, in speaking for a woman, or speaking for a Black person, or speaking for, an Asian, so on and so forth, right? The audiences are hip to that fact. You know what I mean? They want authentic voices, right? Yeah. And so what you see, and I see this a lot in comics, on the flip side, I talk about Black men. I'm going to talk about white men right now. You talk about Comicsgate, and and these things, and all these cats talking about like why are my comics woke? Like SJWs are ruining comics and stuff like that. Like, no, it's not. This is what's happening.
Yeah.
You seem to forget that corporations, their end goal is to make money.
Yep.
What they are seeing, especially thanks Black Panther, $1 billion, what they are seeing is that they are saying, oh, wait a minute. 50% of the comic book buying community are women. It's like this was in 2015. It was like 3 in 10 comic book readers are a person of color, definitely 50% women, so on and so forth. They spend money. They want their stories. And they don't want, excuse me, Filbert McGillicuddy III trying to write a story about a Black woman growing up in Cabrini Green who happens to be an assassin. They would like to hear a woman write that story.
Sure.
They would like to hear a Black woman write that story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would make for a more interesting story than your approximation of this, right? So and again, this is my opinion, but this is also what I'm hearing, is, with these sensitivity editors, so on and so forth, it's because these writers do not have a friend base that is outside people who look like them.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They don't have the empathy to write about people who don't look like them. And what's really interesting about having a sensitivity editor, it's about trying to teach that person empathy. Yeah.
Isn't that weird that empathy is something we have to learn as we get older? It's almost not innate. I think for some people, they're just raised, they experience it from the time they're born. And so it's just part of them. But
it's societal. It's, what I mean? Like the whole notion of empathy or being taught to be empathic or being taught to be communal is a societal thing. Mm-hmm. Right now in the United States is not in a communal state of mind. If we were in a communal state of mind, if the country was, if they were pushing that narrative, during that time, we'd be much better off. Because of the lack of community, because of this lack of compassion and empathy, for your fellow man who does not happen to look like you, because this is a country of other people coming on, you know what I mean? First Nation shit and fucking everything else up. Excuse my French.
No, that's
but shout out to my First Nations people. I'm keeping it a buck here. You would call it, well, we're a nation of immigrants. Let's be real. You know what I mean? Let's be 100 about what's happening right now. Let's be a little bit more honest about everything that's happening right now. And, honestly, if you are going to write of different cultures of people who don't look like you, it would help to have those people in your life. Mm-hmm. And it would help to have those people genuinely in your life. Yes. Right. So, for example, with the Manifest Destiny, with the Horsemen Manifest Destiny, right? I'm looking through the book and I'm looking at all the pages I'm reading. I'm like, damn, I got a lot of women kicking ass up in this book. And the thing about it is that wasn't because of I'm writing a book where I want to have a lot of women.
Oh yeah.
No, it was just like literally as the story went, and I have these scenes and whatnot, and I'm looking at them as a whole as I'm building the book out, and I'm like, damn, there are a lot of women and a lot of women of color kicking ass in this book, and the reason why I have that in this book is because I am surrounded by strong women who kick ass. Yeah. You know what I mean? From my mother to my aunts. This is the thing about being Liberian. Being Liberian is that in a lot of ways, society is very matriarchal. Mm-hmm. So that's good and bad. So it's like, yeah. So like I said, I'm surrounded by strong women all the time. It gets on my nerves. You know what I mean? Because it's
starting to feel like the odd man out.
No, because at a certain point, it's like you step over the line. It's like, slow your roll, Smoking Joe. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, like not everything is going to get done at the time you want to get done.
Yeah.
But I mean, from that, from my family through, my women friends, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Through my, my past lovers, my current partner, that sort of thing. I've always been around and I've always been attracted to, strong, capable women with their own minds, their own, their own purpose, so on and so forth, and I've known them as people. So they're going to be all up in my book.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And when I am creating characters of different cultures in my worlds, that's because I want that world to reflect my world, right? Because, I do have many genuine friends from different cultures, again, being a child of an immigrant, I understand that immigrant story, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like whether if it's my friend Anish talking about his parents, or my friend Dan, who's Korean, talking about their parents, when they talk about certain things, like it doesn't matter that they're Korean or Indian. As a Liberian, they say, "Yeah, I know that. I understand."
Yeah. Well, my father is Croatian. They came over when he was 4, and so I too am a daughter of an immigrant, and it's a different. It's yep. Yeah, there's
you know what I'm saying? Like them immigrant parents have different expectations, and we all have those expectations, right? Right. We may not know the language. I may not know the language in which you got cussed out for not doing right. Yeah, but I know the tone.
Right. Oh yeah, that tone.
Right. And so when I'm writing those characters, that's what I go to. I go to the universality, if you will, of that tone. And then of course, also doing my research of different cultures, because I am a fan. I like different cultures. I like things that are not me, because if I just see stuff that just comes from my little neck of the woods all the time, I'd be bored as hell.
Oh gosh, yeah. Right. I don't want to write about white middle class women all the time. How boring would that be?
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I have so many women characters, because I'm like, I know what a dude is like. I want to know what it's like. I mean, I've written the story in the voice of a 23-year-old white girl who goes to house clubs and likes black guys because I've been around those women. Yes. So I know. I know exactly what that voice is. I know exactly because I've been around them enough. Like I know the ins and outs and the outs and ins, and that's the whole point. Like it's again, like I said, respecting those cultures and researching the things that I don't know. Like one of the things about the Horsemen was that in terms of superhero universes, right? Science, blah, 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 all that other stuff, right? But the root of my superhero universe is the root of all superhero universes, which is mythology, which is world mythology. At the core, it's, African mythology, it's it's the Ifa faith, it's the Orishas, so on and so forth. But it's also world mythology because I'm a fan of mythology. Yeah. And what I also found, like with mythology, that gives me an excuse to research and reference other cultures. Yes, yeah. And so when I bring a character in to the world of the Horsemen, and that character, like for instance, I had one of my former students. She, she's into fitness, and she's like, when are you going to make a Middle Eastern character? And I'm like,
Oh, huh.
oh, no. You know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, all right. I see your subtle hint, and I'm gonna raise you. So let me go check out. I'm like, okay, you're Persian. Let me go check out some Babylonian mythology. Let me see who's
Nice. Yeah.
and then like get a little bit into the culture. You know, so it's it's that thing, and it's that challenge. And again, because of that person that I know that I'm going to respect it because I respect that person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to write stereotypes of things that I saw, you know, on television because I already know that narrative is tainted.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So why am I going to perpetuate a tainted narrative, especially when in the Horsemen, what I'm doing is I'm trying to be authentically Black, and I'm trying to show different aspects of, you know, Pan-African Black cultures in my book, right? Because again, we're not a monolith, so it's not. It's not just African American. It's not just Nigerian. It's Jamaican. It's Ghanaian. It's, you know what I mean, Bayesian. It's you know what I'm saying. It's like all over the place. So if I'm going to show the diversity of that with a certain amount of respect, I have to show other cultures with that same amount of respect, or else I'm going to be a fraud. And I'm not just saying this, you know, from the public sphere. Myself, I would say that I am being a fraud if I'm not being authentic and true to those other cultures that I'm representing.
Absolutely. Not going for the stereotypes, you know. Right.
Because the stereotypes, that's also lazy writing.
Yeah, because it's based on someone else. You know, I think like exaggerations are probably a little bit okay, but just delving right smack into the middle of the
I think exaggerations only work, or I would only really do exaggerations with my own culture.
Yeah.
You know, not with anybody else. Like, because with my culture, I can stretch a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like I can write a trifling character in there, and that character totally works. You know what I mean? I could stretch it a little bit, not too buffoonery, but you know what I mean. I could be a little bit more broad. With that comedy. Now, again, from a respectful tone, if a character from another culture can have that sort of like, if they are that sort of like broad character, a little bit. Again, what I would do in order to kind of respect that is to look at other, shall we say, performers. Because I look at, like, you know, cinema a lot, you know, and seeing how like other performers of those cultures, if I'm looking at a movie from their culture, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do they approach that broadness, you know? And kind of, you know, strive to respect that, you know what I mean?
And there's a whole plethora of information out there. It's like there's no excuse not to do research when you're writing, you know. And I guess there are some people that don't.
And some people are lazy. Their intentions. Yeah,
that's a huge one
of the craft, right?
Right.
Like definitely people who try to come into this business, this creative business, like to make a whole bunch of money. You are a fool. Granted, you don't want to go broke getting into this. You know? And I would always tell my students this. Like, this is how you know you're a successful artist or creative. If what you do that you love is paying your bills, putting food on your table, paying your rent, and giving you a little bit left over to, like, you know, go to the movie or something like that. That's what being a successful artist is.
That is success. Yeah. True.
You know, anything above that is gravy.
Right.
You know, but if you are eating regularly off of you basically bearing a portion of your soul, because that's what being a creative is.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Like we are bearing our souls And at the same time, as we're burying our souls, we're like, pay us for it.
Yes. Please.
Right. Please pay us for it. Right. Now, I don't want to get audiences or potential fans in a place of like, yeah, see, you need us. No, because ultimately you need us.
Oh, yeah. Gosh.
Because the thing that we do that you can't is that we are able to imagine and articulate our imagination so that you may be able to imagine.
Could you imagine this last year and a half without books and comic books and creativity and art? I mean, it would have been impossible.
Completely impossible.
I think we would have gone extinct.
Yeah, I'll say this. This was another moment. And I'm going to big up our generation because I'm assuming we are both Gen X. This is like,
yeah. We have the same birthday.
Yes.
Yeah, I forget. Yeah, August 17th.
Right. Yeah. So especially like if you want to think about the hip hop generation, like Gen X, Black America, with D Nice. With his verses, with what first of all him doing his his live mixes on Instagram, to like Erykah Badu doing like these luscious awesome concerts on YouTube,
oh my gosh,
to the whole verses phenomena, you know what I mean? Like it's like, again, we keep saving America, but that in itself too, to the whole clamoring for content. Like right now, in 2021, we are in a position where content is king. The fact is, like, people are eating this content up. People are hungry for things to stimulate their brain.
Yeah.
Everything you're doing is stimulating your brain. Now, the content you consume, it may be nutritious or it may be junk food.
Oh, yeah. Just like any.
Yeah, just like your media diet.
Oh, yeah.
Is also extremely important. And what we do see is that a lot of people consume junk media.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I've been so surprised, but because some things, like anytime I go to upload something, it starts a video right away. I'm like, how do I stop that?
Right.
And so often I'm so confused. I'm like, what is this? And like, what was that all about? Like yesterday it was someone in a bikini taking just at a boat, turning around and swimming away. And I'm like, what her butt?
What is this?
What is this? Okay. Maybe I'm being too complicated with my social media.
Yeah. I would rather be complicated with my social media than
put some thought into it.
Something.
Yeah.
I take calling myself a creative seriously. Because this is what I do. Mm-hmm. This is what I get paid to do. This is not
You're not doodling.
No, I'm not doodling. I hate it when people in the music industry call themselves artists. I'm like, no, you're a performer. Because
there's such a big difference.
Because musicians don't call themselves artists, they call themselves musicians, right? Mm-hmm. Singers don't call themselves artists, they call themselves singers. You know what I mean? Because they understand that is the craft that they have been practicing, right? So when I see these people in there, they're like, I'm an artist. Like, no, you're a performer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're writing your own material, sure.
Yeah.
If you're making your own beats, definitely.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But if someone else is writing your stuff.
Right. And making it. No, you are not. You're a performer, right? Wait, are you putting together the stage show? You know what I mean? Are you choreographing are you choreographing your steps? Are you picking out your own wardrobe?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, call me a jerk about it, but I've been around. Living in a creative space and being around creatives all day, every day. You know what I mean? Like if my partner works in the film and television industry, she worked on Candyman, which is coming out this weekend.
Ooh, well, that's exciting.
Yeah, you know. So that's just an indicator. Like I'm surrounded by creatives. Like my family is a bunch of creatives. Like most of my friends are creatives and doing all of these different things, right? So yeah, I kind of take that a little bit
Seriously.
Yeah. Just a scotch. Yeah.
That's all right.
A little bit. So I apologize to your audience if they felt a certain way. If some of them are like singers or in the music industry, and they're like, "Oh, I'm an artist," and then they just hear this.
Yeah.
Like, no, you a performer. Like, call yourself by your proper name. Like,
just call yourself what you are. No.
Yeah, I know, right. So, I hope that I like.
Well, I don't know. I'm taking my chances every time I do this show. I'm like,
True.
One of these days, am I going to say something really stupid and it's totally going to come back on me? And it's like.
My intention is just for everyone to be honest. That's my intention. And I don't mean be honest in this douchey way of like,
well, in my honest opinion.
No, not like that. But
that's
just,
the worst.
but just in a lot of respects, call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? Just be true.
Yeah. And how else? What a better way to grow than to have someone call you out?
Hey, when it ain't right, and you need to be told it ain't right.
Yeah. So music is Muse. So I'm switching gears a little bit. Another creative process that has a huge impact on your life, and I'm sure many other lives, is music. And you even have a channel where you put together mixes.
Yeah, I have a podcast called Ghetto of the Mind, which actually this year, very few episodes have been coming out because I've been working on books. because it's like I put out 2 books so far this year, and I'm working on my 3rd book this year. So I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. Well, you can listen to them more than once. That's okay.
That is very true. So I'm sorry I only put out 2 episodes in 2021. So Ghetto of the Mind, that's my DJ outlet. When I was in college, I had a radio show on WCBN FM in Ann Arbor, University of Michigan, go blue. Anyway, my show was called Ghetto of the Mind. And this was the early 90s. So, and I was becoming a real hip hop head. And in addition to becoming I was becoming so much a real hip hop head that I was becoming an armchair musicologist, in the sense that, whenever I heard that sample, what was the original track that they sampled from? So, so having that radio show and, going into hip hop and then going, deep cuts and going deeper into jazz and R&B and soul and and Detroit techno and Chicago house. That's later, after I got out of school. I really got into electronic music, but so that was my yen, because I've also been a big fan of music. I played saxophone in grade school and dabbled a little bit in piano and sang choir.
I'm a violinist, so
yeah. So music is that other love. And like I said, I've been a DJ. I don't call myself a DJ because, again, I have many friends who are professional DJs and they can call themselves a DJ. I'm a storyteller, That's what I am in a nutshell. So music is another outlet for me to tell the story. So whenever I do an episode of Ghetto of the Mind, it is basically a soundtrack to a dope ass movie that you've never seen. So there's always there's a narrative. Each episode has a narrative in it, and within that narrative, I'm able to play with different music genres because it's all part of the narrative. So, you know, there might be some hip hop in it. There might be some techno or house. There might be some R&B. There might be some soul. There might be some jazz. Yeah. There might be some 80s Brit pop, because that's my jam. You know, I'm a child of the 80s, right? Right. But it's like whatever fits the narrative. Now, sometimes, you know, again, thinking as a DJ, beat-wise, sonic-wise, that's driving the narrative. I may have actually had a little story in my mind about something, but that is the outlet that's my musical outlet, you know, and that's my free outlet. Also, while I'm working, you know, some people are like, what music do you listen to? Oh, yeah. I listen to opera. I listen to this. No, I listen to it all. Like if I'm working, you know, and actually some of my students have seen it when in class they're working on their assignment and I'm working on an assignment and I got my music going and I'm just like singing and grooving with it. And I'm like, you know, trying and like grooving with it, because when I'm in the groove, that means I'm really in the groove. That means I'm all in that moment of creation. Yes. You know, and when you see me in that moment, hopefully it's a joyful moment and it gets you creating. I was teaching class one day and I come into class and I tell the whole class, like, all right, class, today is a work day. All we're going to listen to are 80s anthem songs. We're just going to listen to montage music for the whole class. Oh my gosh. And they were like, what? What the hell are you talking about? I'm like, hey, you're going to love it too. So I start off, and I think it's like Irene Cara's, you know, Oh, What a Feeling. Oh, nice. They're like, what is this? And as we go on, I see them like slowly like, and by the time they get to Go West, we close our eyes and like, oh my God, I love this thing. Oh my God. What have you done? Like, oh my God. Fantastic. But right now. And I want to take your class. It's because you're in the zone, right? Yeah. You're like, welcome to my world. So now you're having fun, right? Yeah. And when you're creating, it always should be fun. I have tons more questions, but you know, in the future, hopefully we'll get to talk again. And of course, I'll see you on Facebook. And but really quickly before, I want you to go ahead and tell the audience what they should be watching out for. Okay, so currently what's happening right now is the Kickstarter for the HORSEMEN Manifest Destiny, a 64-page full-color tale continuing the New Mythology saga with tales from the past, present, and future of the HORSEMEN universe that is going on at Kickstarter right now. We are trying to raise $5,000. As of this recording, we are at 27%. And so the Kickstarter is lasting until September 16th. So please go on Kickstarter and please back the HORSEMEN Manifest Destiny. In those rewards, the highest tier reward, you can get a free piece of original art from the actual story. So if you are a true comic book collector and you like collecting original art, comic book art, that is right up your alley. Other than that, you can catch me on the Facebooks, Jiba Molei Anderson on Facebook, or Griot Enterprises on Facebook. On Instagram, you could catch me at Jazz Intellect. Those are the major places that you can catch me. Of course, you can always check out our website at www.griotenterprises.com. And by the way, if you enjoyed this lovely conversation that Jude and I had, please like and click subscribe to get more great conversation with creatives talking about different things and drinking different things. Yes. And partaking some things too. Yes. This has been great, Jiba. Thank you so much for joining me. I really look forward to the evolution of the HORSEMEN. Thank you so much for inviting me in this. Yeah, you're welcome. I really appreciate this. You know, I love speaking to different audiences and helping spread the words.
Yes, yeah. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
You too.
Thanks. Bye.